started?
You are ready. Go for it.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's class. I am Christophe Etienne de la Reine de la Journée. I am the Lincoln Herald for the Midlands, which is the regional Herald. And the class that I'm going to be going over today is Admin 101 for group Pursuivants here. So you're a new Herald for your group, either Shire, Canton, Barony, or you want to become one. So this class is basically going to be a general overview of the duties. And to get started, we'll tell you a little bit about my SCA Hilder experience. So I joined the SCA back in 2014, back in Onstior, and the Barony of Eldon Hills. And I was a little bit different. I had some minor experience with the SCA previously back in like 2000 when I was in the military. And by 2014, me and my wife then decided we really wanted to get involved in it. So we were one of the few strange people that actually, as soon as we joined the SCA, we had our names picked out and Herald picked out. But just from all that research I did and with names and badges in my device, I wanted to get more involved with it. And within probably the first month, I went up to our Barony Herald and I was like, I want to become, your deputy. And he asked why. And for me, the main reason why I love being in front of people, I love research, I love administrative stuff. My job mostly in the military was like an organizational administrator. I love research, I love writing papers, so this was sort of up my alley. And even thinking back at looking at all of the different movies you grew up with of the Renaissance or the Middle Ages, you saw these huge banners and battles and these wonderful tabards that people wear. And I think that's what sort of got me into it. But then about a month later, he stepped down and became the regional Herald in Onstior, and I got tagged to become the Barony Herald. So it was started becoming a trial by fire. So something about talking about stuff that I learned the last minute, like, here, tag, you're it. And after that, after I retired from the military, I moved back to Illinois. And when I joined the Midrealm in Midlands, and right away I became the Shire Shortcliffe is where I'm at, and I became our group Herald here. And from there, I became deputy to the regional Herald. It was Alexander at the time. And then about a year or so ago, he stepped down and I took over that position. So as you move up through the different positions, there's different responsibilities. Like I said, today we're just going to go over local, like, branch Herald stuff. So just to begin with, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the branch Pursuivant job description that's actually posted under the under midrealm.org website in the documents library. So this is the position that was approved, with our kingdom law and everything else. So basically, the purpose of a branch Pursuivant is it's an integral part of the function of a local group. Now, the position is required for baronies. It's also required for shires to have a herald. Now, per our Middle Kingdom law, one of the main things that we have to do is reporting. So there's quarterly reports is one of the main things you would do as a branch herald. And they're spread 4 times throughout the year: March, June, September, and December, end of each month. Of course, if you go to heraldry, if you go to the midrealm.org and go to the heraldry site or the page, there listed on there is actually the dates for submission. That's probably the most essential job function on the administrative side is job reporting. Now, there are other duties. So just because you're a group herald, there are 4 different types of heraldry. There's voice heraldry, there's book heraldry, there's armor heraldry, which can be also book heraldry, and then there's silent heraldry. Primarily as a group herald, your job isn't to know every single one perfectly. It's really about knowing where the resources are to help other people out. This is a service position, not just for your group, but to other members and anything else within your branch or wherever you want to do. But as long as you have a general knowledge of each one, at least, or know somebody who can help out, those are great resources to have. Like I said, there's book heraldry, which covers submissions. You'll help people research and document SCA appropriate names and armory. You might help them navigate the submission process. So having a basic understanding of that sort of thing, and will help you as a group herald. Court heraldry, a lot of like baronial heralds or branch heralds do court herald. Basically, they serve as the crowns or cornets or kingdom or baronial courts. If they're more like if you're a baronial officer, that's what you would do. And they consult with their excellencies regarding court proceedings, etc. And they submit court reports to the kingdom as appropriate. So that's mostly what a lot of branch heralds do, is court heraldry. They basically are the voice of that baronial court for their excellencies. Also, if your group has tournaments, you can be a field herald or field or tournament herald. Basically, you would call the tournaments and make announcements as requested. And then another job duty is courtesy and precedence. So every group should have a local order of precedence either on the group's website or book or something that's digitally stored. And basically what the order of precedence is the order of based upon awards from the highest to the lowest. And that way for like processions, or if you're going to have like feast or courts and some people need to be set a certain way so everything runs proper, that's why you have a group's order president. Or let's say your essential or superior group want to put somebody in for an award, or like a baronial, their excellencies for a barony want to put somebody in for an award. They might come to you and say, hey, what awards does this person have? They can either go online. There's a great resource that we have on the kingdom, but it might be faster for them to just come to you and see what you have. And that's something, as a branch herald that you would have up to date. In addition, one thing that you would do also as a branch herald is you would educate the populace, especially newcomers, regarding like titles, insignia, regalia, and the use. Especially with newcomers, being a branch herald can be very, very helpful. There's, like I said, recruiting, training. But a lot of so continue on. This is all I'm going off of the branch Pursuivant description so far before I get into more of my stuff that I learned. So it goes into relationships. So relationships that you would have as a branch herald is you would report to the regional herald, you report to the dragon herald for kingdom level. You would also report to your branch seneschal. Of any issues you would have or anything. You may supervise UW Pursuivants, so you could have deputy heralds assist you on different areas, such as if you don't know a lot about voice heraldry or field heraldry, you could easily find some deputy heralds to help train them or have people help you, so you don't have to take tons of different duties or responsibilities all on your own. You'll be more like as a manager or supervising the position. In addition, you would develop rapport and positive interactions with the submitters. So being a group hero, a lot of people will come to you asking you questions, like such as names, where to find information. Same with devices. And you would work directly with their excellencies if you're in a barony regarding courts.
Okay, question popped up here from Antonio. When it comes to name and device submission, do groups or Pursuivants have the ability to discuss things for members beyond what the members can themselves?
I'm going to pull that up to look at that. So when it comes to names and device mentions, do group Pursuivants have the ability to process things from members beyond what the members can do themselves? As a group Pursuivant, when it comes to submissions, you're more of a guide. Now, if somebody wants to, let's say, try to submit something that that wouldn't pass, it's still the right of the member to get submitted. And I mean, you're there to help guide them, give them answers, but ultimately the decision comes up to the member whether they want to submit something or not. If you have any questions about it, always contact your regional herald. Even the device and submissions at kingdom level herald. I can't remember. I think my brain is fried today. I was going to say rogue scrap hero, but I know I'm probably going to get it wrong and they're going to get after me for it. But it's one of those days. But like I said, you can, there's the forms you can help them fill out. Knowing those forms is really going to help when it comes to your job. It's not your responsibility, and I had learned this first way. It's not your responsibility as a group herald to help somebody with their submissions to the point of you're drawing it for them, you're doing everything for them. You can if you want to. So I mean, you're interested in as your herald, but you're more responsible for help guiding them the path that they need to get that whatever they want submitted to be submitted. So ultimately, we're all volunteers, and you don't want to overburden yourself. I had learned that right away when, I love drawing and I love, the process of helping people out. And as any type of service job, especially being a herald, you gotta learn sometimes how to say no, or learn how to delegate. That's why there's so many people in this inner kingdom that are wonderful heralds that are really good book heralds, really good consulting heralds. Like they know so much about particular objects. Those are the contacts that you want to build up. And just by joining some of the different submission processes, such as going to the Oscar accounts and commenting and talking to people and volunteering, are the best ways to make these connections. So you can find people to help you out if you have questions. But hope that answers your questions. If I'll keep going back and forth between the two. So I'll get back to the thing. So there are some qualifications to be. So you got to be an SCA member in good standing. You have to be above the age of 15. That is by SCA corporate policies. And by the one, you would be at least preferably 18 years old for our kingdom information. But there are some great heralds out there that I have met that are 15 years old, 16 years old. They got wonderful loud voices. They're great court heralds and stuff. And there's people, that are volunteering all the time. So, if it's something you're interested in, whether you're not, you can still become a deputy if you're not 15. There's stuff you can do to help out. Language skills. It says you must be able to read and write reports, must be effectively present information, and you must be able to interpret instructions finished in written or oral. All right. So that in a nutshell is what we have on our kingdom webpage, or what the requirements is for a branch herald. So going over some of the duties that I learned as a branch herald, starting off, is the first thing: local heralds are responsible for meetings and events. It'll be your responsibility to help move things along, so that hour-long meeting, that 2-hour-long meeting doesn't go over. You help keep the process going along. You help the seneschal out so that stuff can keep moving. If it's a barony, of course, you're going to talk to their excellencies about what they want to do for that meeting, along with the seneschal, so I think get done. So heralds, you heard local meetings and events, involves announcing, to some popular important messages and information you need to know. It's a large site. It may require the herald to go to several spots and repeat the announcements. So that would be more so at an event heraldry, or like tournaments. We call them site heralds. They run around and give all the information. If your group's running events, it's good to have site heralds. So as the main herald of the event, you're not running around doing that, and your voice is heard by court if you're going to be participating in court. The main thing is, with this is, being at events or local meetings, pace yourselves. Drink the water. Don't forget you're only one person. It's better that by the time court comes around, if you're going to be participating in it, that you're not so tired that you can barely speak. Another required duty that I learned is, you can, like I said, you can herald local tournaments, and that's acting as a field herald, usually done for fighting tournaments, rapier, heavy, etc. But the kinds of tourneys may require similar services as an event. You might need multiple heralds, and that's where you can reach out to through social media. It's a good source right now. There's the Midrealm consulting heralds. There's the Midrealm. There's different Facebook groups that you can go to where you can actually get help. Here in the Midlands, we have a Midlands Heralds group that I use to get information to my branch heralds and the people that want information about. Let's see, also local feast herald, same thing. At a feast, being a herald is you would announce the courses of the meals, you would pass on any information that either the excellencies or the majesties or whoever you're helping out would want you to relay on. So being a feast herald, just like being an event herald or a court herald, you're basically becoming the voice of whatever presentation they're trying to present or whatever information they want to get out. When it comes to courts, as a hero, one of the things that I learned is you'll stand behind just by watching, you'll stand behind either their majesties, or if it's a baronial court, you'll stand behind their excellencies, and you'll call forth assembly populage. You'll, for either wards or whatever information or whatever if it's baronial court want to do, and your job is almost the same thing at, say, if it's a local meeting. Your responsibility as if you're court herald of the event is to help keep everything moving along. From if it's from rewards or anything else, so you don't want, let's say, an hour-long court to turn in 3 hours and you're standing up there for 3 hours and people are getting tired, because it's almost, like your job as a hero is almost, it can almost be like court, is almost like being the court jester too, type thing. One thing that I always learned is you're allowed once to get a name wrong if you read a scroll off, only once. Everything else is on another herald. But it's just, you try to not really entertain, but you want to be more lively. If you're having, if you're smiling, you're happy up there, and the populace sees you, they might become more involved and not be tired and everything else, especially if the court goes long, because some courts can go very long. But usually if it's going to be a long court, have a backup. Have somebody come relieve you. Have multiple heralds up there who have really good voices to help you read scrolls. Divide it up. There's many other, this can be a whole class. I can talk about court heraldry or anything else. It can be long, but the main thing is pace yourself. In addition, make sure you have water, make sure your voice is safe, especially if you're also in charge of being that local herald for the event that's running too. Make sure that you get as much help as possible. Now, let's see, so we went over, let's say, making regular reports. There's, like I said, there's quarterly reports is the main report that you would do as a branch herald. Right now, it's a lot easier than it used to be. Right now, you just go through the service portal on Midrealm.org, and you can submit your reports there. I'm not going to go over actually submitting the full reports, but there's questions on there such as, have you read, the protocol? Have you read this? Do you have any questions? Do you need help? And it's basically a breakdown of any information that your regional herald can help you out with. And the Kingdom Herald gets that same report at the same time as the regional herald gets, so they'll see right away in case there's anything they need to take care of at the Kingdom level. They can help you out right away. So some of the stuff that I learned is when I became a herald, all I had was, here's a tabard, have fun. And here's a box of random stuff that had papers in it that I really didn't know what to do with. So one of the things that I learned was putting together a couple of my own kits to take with me. Now, if you're at, let's say, like a local meeting or whatever, I have this handy dandy little toolkit, basically a little case, a kit. I can put my pens, markers in it. But in here, you want to keep a copy of the protocol handbook. And I'll pull some of the stuff out I have in here to go along. You want to pull out the protocol handbook, and I'm going to go over and share my screen so I can pull some of these up so you can see what they look like if you already don't know. Okay, my computer's being weird, but I'll show what they are. So you want to pull the protocol handbook. You would want to pull up the book of ceremony. You have a copy of the book of ceremonies on hand. You also want to have a copy of the Pursuivants handbook. And all this material is available under the library, under the share portal that we have. If you don't know what it is, if you go to the library.midrealm.org/herald, all these books are there in PDF form for you. Those are the basic ones you should have: is the protocol book, the Pursuivants handbook, and the book of ceremonies. Those are the 4 main books that you should have either printed off, or nowadays, we've gone so digital. I recommend having it in paper copy in case something happens, but you have it in digital form. If you have like a tablet or a laptop, you can be consulting or working at an event where you can be able to set up a station, have them there, or a printer. Some of the other things that I have, and all the stuff that I have, I was able to get, is on the site. So like just being, like I said, when you go to a local meeting, people are going to come with you questions. A good thing to have is heard a consultation sheet. I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but I'll share some. There's many of them out there. This is one that I use. It has on the back of it, it has, my brain is being crazy today. It has these shields so you can do the armory in them. I know I'm going to get killed for that by my regional or my kingdom, but my brain stopped working about 5 seconds ago. That way, if people have questions or want to pass ideas to you or anything else, they can draw on here. On the front, it has some of this information, just the basic information of what they would want and what they want to advise, so you can get a general idea to help them with their device. So I keep a whole bunch of what I call consultation sheets in here. In addition, I keep a whole bunch of the name submission forms. And these forms are the actual submission forms that you would use as a consulting herald for your group or for any member who basically want to submit a name. Name submissions is a whole nother class, so I'm not going to get into this. I said I'm just showing you some of what I have in my toolboxes and my kits. And I will, once we're done, I will post to this PDF that I have that has a breakdown of this kit for everyone to have, or you guys can PM me on Facebook, and I can send it to you that way too. I also keep the device submission forms too. Here they are. So you keep a whole bunch of device submission forms. I keep the badge forms, and I keep the lodging forms. Let's see. So let's see. We went over there. So we want to have a portable file box or a folder. So for group meetings, I have that, and then in there, I keep markers, Creative markers, pencils, and pens, in addition to the main protocol handbooks. So this is just for something quick. If I'm going to go as a pursuer, I'm going to go to a local meeting. I have stuff so I can take notes. paper, questions. So that way you can help the whole process go along. Also, if I'm no longer a group here, I'm a regional here, but you would want to have your device on here. So I made this a while ago. So here's something simple. It can be from something simple as this to hang on your belt to a medallion, or it could even be a full tabard with the trumpets on there. So you would want to take that, and that all depends on what's going to happen at that court too, or that local court for that barony that you're participate if you're going to be a branch herald for a barony. They might not need you to have their full tabard or anything else, or you might have a special protocol book. That's something you would want to talk to your excellencies of that barony about. Like I said, you want submission forms, have blank paper, scribble sheets, like blank shields like I just showed you. Pens, papers, markers, basic drawing tools. Just because you might go to a meeting and you guys have some downtime for questions and answers, or popular, so you could be sitting there and people might come up to you and say, hey, I have this idea with this, and they didn't draw it down. Have them draw it down. Then you can go help them research and help them put it together. Like I said, I really love doing, the actual armorial heraldry for actually drawing the arms up and everything else. And I still love doing that and coming up with different crazy designs. So that's one thing I love doing. I love being a core hero and, being in front of people. Have templates in addition. If possible, have the latest LAOR. And what that is after the College of Heralds gets together and decides basically what device is going to pass before, they also decide on different issues, such as whether Wyvern and a dragon are the same, and amongst other things. So it's always good to have a copy of this, the latest one that's been sent out, and you can get a copy of that from either directly from the site if you go to SCA, or I think it's scaheraldry.org if I remember correctly, or you can get a hold of your regional kingdom, because we get them directly sent to us every month. And like I said, have the Pursuivants handbook in addition to the protocol and anything else. Now, there are some for consulting and other duties besides that list listed above. Is you might want to have a checklist for court. And now I have a different binder for I take for me if I'm not going to be a court hero. In here, I have a basic book of ceremonies. This is a little foot thing. It can fit in my other one. And in here, I have the same basic stuff. I have markers, more smaller markers for the finer lines. I found that having both of these for your finished product, or try and help somebody draw something up, is better. That way, for the finer lines, make sure you have tons of pen, paper, pencils. A ruler is always good. In addition, make sure I have a copy. I actually print out separately of the scroll text. So whenever if let's say you're going to end up being a court herald, and the last minute their majesties or the excellencies say they're getting an award and want to put a scroll, and they don't have the scroll done yet because it's like the last minute thing, having this separate from your book of ceremonies will help you out. That way you can easily flip to it, find it, and give it to them. And in case you need to read directly off here for whatever award you're giving out, we don't have this huge book you're flipping through for whatever ceremony. Have a copy of the protocol handbook, and I say just minor copies of other device and submission forms. It's the basic thing that I carry in if I'm known to be a court hero for the day. Because there's no reason for you to bring around the huge tough box, everything else, if you're just going to have a minor role for that day. A good thing to always have is Herald books. There's so many PDF ones out there you can get, but there's so many out there that you can get. One of my favorite ones I like, especially for helping with armorial stuff, is this Herald Quest Pictorial Arts one. And these have like what's on top of helms when you come up drawing devices. Here's a couple of examples of them. But this is a good book. It's one of my favorite ones. The illustrations in here are very wonderful, but there are tons of different resources. And that's the main thing, main thing, if I can impart to you, if you want to be a local herald, or if you are currently a local herald, is use your resources. You don't have to put everything on yourself for, you don't have to put everything on yourself, when trying to figure something out. You're the guide and help the populace. And if you're a baronial herald, to serve their excellencies and in whatever function they need as a baronial herald. Say here, guard, mug, outdoor protection. There's the references to cough drops. If you're going to be walking around a lot, have something like a walking stick, it'll help. Plus, if you have a stick with the heralded colors on it, green and or on there. Well, I shouldn't say green. I'll probably get kicked for that later. Have a staff so people can notice you, especially if you're going to walk around making a lot of announcements. One thing that I will go over briefly, and this is what I'm going to send to I'll post on there. This is it's a heraldry for new group heralds. I made a little brochure that you can carry around with you to help you out. I'm going to go over basically the submission process just briefly, so you have a general idea of what it is. So basically all submissions are processed and received once a month, and in an internal letter of intent, and it's posted on the Middle Kingdom Oscar. And then all the commenters have a month to comment. So right now, if I send a submission up as a group herald, and it's good to know the process of this, because that's a lot of questions you'll get is people who have submitted things either before you or they want to submit it, and they want to know how long it's going to take. Knowing the process, and you can honestly, it can take 6 to 9 months, especially, that's minimum, and that's depending on if it has to get sent back, if there's changes to be made, it could take longer. So once it's submitted, so if I submit it today, and right now today it's about the middle of the month, around 16th. So if I submit it today, and it won't be posted until next month's internal letter of intent. So right there, and then from there, commenters will have a month to comment on it. So after everyone comments on it, and comments are made, decisions are made, the World Scrap Hero will review the comments and the submissions, decides which ones to be sent forward and returned and sent to the Lawrence or the Society Herald by posting, in the Oscar. So you're looking at for the initial process right there, for just our initial process. If I submit it now, next month's going to comment on. So I'm looking at October, the October submission meeting for the comment. So once all that's done, it could take, by the end of that month. So we're looking at October, November, by the time it's actually up at the Laurel. And so Laurel allows for now up to 2 months of commentary before any decision is made. So it's November. Let's see. Yeah, so November, December. So we're looking at January before a decision makes. Once the decision is made, then they have to publish it, and that could take up to that's a number. So I'm looking at February. So honestly, it takes 6 to 9 months for a straight process and to go up. And that doesn't include any returns, any information that's not correct on the submission form that gets sent. Now, one good thing is if it gets returned at the Kingdom level, changes can get fixed right away and we get sent to that. But if it gets returned at the Laurel level, you don't have to go through the whole submission process again. So once ever changes get fixed or whatever that submitter wants to do to resubmit, it'll go right to them. You don't have to start the process all over again. So, like I said, 6 to 9 months from the internal letter of intent to Laurel decision letter, usually about 6 to 9 months. Or it could take longer depending on backlog and the time of the year, especially if you're trying to submit right around PennSec time frame or any large groups. So that's the submission process. Let's see. And then, so we know that. So another thing I want to talk also about is that checklist for court that I have. So one thing you want to do for the checklist of court is about an hour prior to any court. You want to find the signet. You want to find either their, especially in Baroni, Baroni Herald, you'll find their excellencies. And you'll have a meeting and you'll look at the scrolls. You'll make sure the names you're able to pronounce. And then usually on the back of the scrolls, the signatures are really good and they're so wonderful. What they do for us poor heralds who, can't read, cursive or, calligraphy too well, they'll actually have a transcription for you a lot of times on the back for you to read. Like I said, the main thing is that's pretty easy to read, but the main thing is try to pronounce that person's name, because especially if it's that person's first award, because there are some awards out there that might be the only award they get. They might get other ones, but just remember what it felt like the first time that you got your name called up in court and how excited you were. And you want to do that for that same person. And, even if it's, their 10th award, same thing, make sure you get their name right, because that's something that, can make that them getting that award even more special. Or, like I joked about earlier, a herald, with your court herald, you can mess with somebody's name once. Try not to. It's not funny. I have a really, really long name, and most people get it right about 10% of the time. But, that's my fault. I'll explain that. Some of the time you ask me why my name so crazy, I'll tell you, but it was Herald's getting back at me. So let's see. So find the signet. If no signet, like I said, see the royalty, and make sure you get help. Have somebody else besides not a signet available. Have somebody there to help you hold the scrolls, or have that way you're not constantly reaching over. Get a copy of the court list if not available. Write one down, even on a simple piece of paper. Now with that, the checklist for court that was actually available on the website, it's a good one. It has everything on there that you need. People want to do presentations, there's an order you can put on there. It basically lets you keep the order so you can keep their excellencies, or if you're doing, kingdom level court, the majesties, to know, what order they want to go in so they can get their court done as fast and as possible, but as accurate as possible and as timely as possible. Like I said, whenever you do a court, make sure you have, the book of ceremonies on hand if need be. Presentations, when it comes to that court checklist, what you want to do is, you want to know what it is, who is it from, if they're giving anything, possibly can they do it during a feast. It depends on what's going on, depends how long their excellencies will let you know at baronial court, even the match will let you know if they're able to fit it within their court, or they might want to do beforehand or after. Before court, as a local herald, you'll help be responsible for setting up the thrones correctly. So knowing that order of precedence, not just for, let's say, if you're baronial herald, not known for, you'll know where your, excellency said, but you got visiting, baronesses and barons visiting. You need to know where to set them up, either left or to the right, depending on basically their order of precedence on where they're from. You'll make sure that the banners are set up correctly. Make sure if they want a table, basically anything that they need set up, guards, retainers, the herald is in charge of the presentation of court. And it's presentation of court, and not just reading off a scroll. They're in charge of the overall, you're almost like the MC. You're the master of ceremonies of court. Like I say, now during court, they'll talk to the royalty, or talk to the baron and baronesses, and find out if they want you to process with them. They might want you behind or inside. You'll convene the court. You'll do presentations. Something you could do is also fealty if the matches are there. You could list contest winners for tournaments, any official business that they might have, and any outgoing presentations, awards, and then you'll close court. And then the main thing after court as a local herald, even if your court, is submitting that court report, and that's in order to make sure that the awards that were given are properly submitted. That way they can get updated and they can get posted to the newsletter. That way they become official. Make sure you include the royalty holding the court, because sometimes baronial, the excellencies, they can hold a baronial court in fee for their majesties. And so you will read off kingdom level awards there. And so with that, so let me see what time we have. Okay, we got 20 more minutes. Okay, so that's some of the basic stuff as a court herald. As a basic herald, you can go over. It's not difficult. It's something that even if you're, I know there's a lot of heralds out there, people that want to be heralds, and they're daunted by all the work and all tasks. Like I said, there's a lot of resources out there. One of the great resource sites out there, the main is if you go right to heraldry.ca.org, which is the main site for the College of Heralds. That's a great resource, and there's tons of other resources out there. There's articles, even on our own library. There is some forums on here. There's other articles in here, and there's even a wonderful song about tinctures. There is you don't have to know everything to be a branch herald. The main thing to know is you have resources, you have friends out there. You can always ask for help if you're unsure. But the best way to start getting involved, if you really want to be a group herald, is to go ask somebody to be their deputy. Go up to them so that way they can teach you them. They can show you how to do the reporting. I had maybe a month's experience when I first took over as a group herald, and it was trial by fire. It was like, here, poof, half that month I was submitting the reports. I was doing everything because the guy who plays, got sick. So it was like, today you're it. And I had my first event as him a month after that. So it's like, it was nerve wracking, honestly, even though I was in the military for 20 years and yelling in front of people, it's totally different being in front of a group of people, everyone looking at your every single word as you speak. But first 10 seconds, 15 seconds, you're nervous, but then it just all flows. And the more you do it, the more practice you get, the more comfortable you get, just like anything else. And like I said, you don't have to be the perfect, herald where every single thing. That's not the requirement of this job. That's not even in the SCA. If you want to become a herald, period, you don't have to know everything there is to know about everything about being a voice herald, or everything there is to know about being a court herald, or know how to do consultations. As a branch herald, you need to know a little bit about everything so you can help point people in the right direction, help them get the help they need. And from an administrative perspective, like I said, you'll submit reports, you'll help them with submission forms. Now, if you're really good at drawing and you want to get more involved, there's other classes, there's tons of people you can get with who are really good at doing their armory, or they're really good at researching names. And that's something, that we have, there's tons of other classes, that that you take your questions, I can help you out. But unless you guys have too much more questions, I really don't have too much more in my presentation tonight. I know I spoke a little bit fast, so normally it's like, but this was originally I had everything down in a PowerPoint presentation because I'm death by PowerPoint person, and I lost my hard drive this morning because of my kids. So I luckily had everything saved as backups, and I printed everything out. So, but that's, I say, be prepared. So you can't have everything digitally. That's why I have copies of everything for my presentations in my boxes, in my books. So if you guys don't have any questions or anything.
Why don't I unmute everyone and ask them to introduce themselves?
Yes.
You might get some conversation going.
Yes. I'm going to close this down and then change my view. There we go.
Oh, come on. Okay. You should be able to mute yourself, everyone. Why don't you introduce yourself? Katrin, let's start with you.
I'm Katrin, Grimm's daughter. I'm the Rivenstar Herald. I don't know. What else do you want to know about me?
Yeah. Did you have any questions or anything? I know I went sort of fast over stuff, and I know, like I said, do you have any questions, or I can keep rambling or anything?
I actually don't have any questions. Most of this was a pretty good review for me. Yeah. So I'm feeling confident about being a herald now, and that I kind of knew everything that you said. So
right, because you've been a herald for a while, haven't you?
I've been a book herald on my own at large for about 5 years, and I just stepped up as the group herald for Rivenstar.
Yeah, I thought I saw something about that recently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congratulations. It's, at least, you have, let's say you got 5 years experience as a book herald, that'll help you a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Antonio or Drifa, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I can. I'm Drifa. I'm from Abacal. And really, I just came because it said 101, and I thought I don't really know much about heraldry in my area. I don't really think I necessarily have a knack for book heraldry, and I'm not really sure if voice heraldry is for me, but I just kind of figured I'd come and have a listen and see what was up. And I honestly don't really have any questions at this point either, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
If you want, like I said, I'll post to this link for the event that basically it's a brochure that I made that has the basics of group heraldry. I can submit it there for you, and it has actually on the back page a bunch of different websites and everything else on there to help out. So if you're interested, there's more there. I know with Arcana we have stuff, but there, like Mardur University has a bunch of great heraldic references and articles on there too, if you're just interested in general. There's also silent heraldry for like sign language too, if you're interested in that. So,
I would add that if you were in choir and a really good choir director, you're probably going to be a pretty good field herald.
I know I definitely don't want to do field heraldry. I don't like camping events, and I don't like getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that is not for me.
Are most of Avacal's events multi-day? Here in the Midrealm, we have many day events.
I'm really sorry. When you were asking the specifics of your question, the audio cut out and I wasn't actually able to hear you.
Okay.
Can you repeat your question?
Does Al have lots of multi-day events? Here in the Midrealm, we have lots of single-day events.
Pretty much everything in the summer is multiple day events because they're almost all camping events. And they're very, very far away, and I don't like camping, and yeah. In the winter season, which of course in Avacal is, most of our year, it tends to be a bit of a mix. There's usually sort of the day before, like the Friday will have some kind of social activity or archery. Saturday will be the main event with, most of the fighting, any ANS that they've put together, any classes they've put together, and a feast. And then once in a while, usually not part of the event itself, but just kind of as a friends get together, there's sometimes sort of like an ANS meeting or a class on the Sunday. So our events do tend to end up being multi-day events, even if the actual event itself is only on a Saturday in the winter.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So Antonio said he can't talk right now, but he did post on there. So he said he is interested in pursuing voice heraldry, both field and court, and he wanted to know when it comes to being a group herald, is it typical to specialize in the visual elements of the job. So by visual elements, you mean more like the armor roll, like drawing, actually drawing the badges and the arms for people. Is that what you mean by the visual elements of it, or are we talking about more like court heraldry where you're the visual person, people see you? Me, like I say, at least for me, when I became a baronial herald, my first, as a branch herald, for me, I really, really loved researching where the different devices and charges came from and who had what. I would go look at old manuscripts, old books, and anything else online. I would go to my local library. I was always big into devices, and that's kind of more some personal thing, because researching my own genealogy, my own family history, and seeing what they had. So I knew a little bit outside of the SCA about arms and from that visual perspective of it. But you like I said, as a group herald, you don't have to specialize in one thing, but it's up to you. It's up to you, whatever path that leads you on. Being a group herald is also a good way if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't know if you want to specialize, if you don't know you just want to be just a voice herald or just a court herald or just, do consultations for names or badges or, submissions, you or even become a silent herald. You might start off as a group herald and then decide later that, after say a year or 2 years, which is 2 years is typically the term, most groups as a local branch herald, that you want to not be a branch herald anymore, so it's totally fine. And you said you want to start working on, doing research on names, and that's something that really interests you. And then, you start working on that aspect of, the art behind the research and the development, the art and science behind it, portion of it. So there's, it's not just a service related job being a group herald. At least from my point of view, it's also, it's an art, it's a science, there's so much involved. It's not, it's not just one aspect of it. So I can't draw to save my life, and I don't feel I could do much in regards to army missions. Yeah, perfect.
This is how you get a deputy.
Yeah, so you got a deputy, and there are tons of people. There are so many heralds at large within your group, within your kingdom, that love to draw. And I mean, in some kingdoms even now are starting to do online submission process electronically. There is heraldic clip art. There's the Pens, I can remember, Traceable Art Project let's see, and we'll pull that real quickly because I have that saved. Yeah, the traceable heraldic art. So if you go and Google that, there's tons of digital art to help you, where you could, and all these forms are digital. And that's how honestly I started doing my submission process. I can't draw straight lines anymore for anything. My hands shake too much from like typing and carpal tunnel no problem. So I can, I can do scrolls, but don't ever ask me to do calligraphy. But there's so much digital media out there to help you. So where you can literally trace the lines and color, help fill them in. And some kingdoms are starting to do online submissions where everything's electronic, so you don't have to draw. Just for that, so say you don't want to do that, but there's other aspects. You don't have to just be, do armory submissions, and I do like thinking you're more apt to project your voice over court hall or campground. I think that's a funny story. Is that's sort of where I think I found something like that, where my love for voice heraldry was. I was in the military, and I was an NCO, which is non-commissioned officer. And when you can yell across half a football field at soldiers who are messing with wildlife when they shouldn't, and get their attention, that's how you need a job in heraldry. So. Yeah, so it's about voice projection. So, but yeah, I hope those answer those questions for you there. But I want to thank everyone for coming. Tonight, listening either live on Facebook or